Our fifth story on the countdown, what began on this news hour last week with Democratic Congressman Raul Grijalva, now including even the Republican mayor of New York City, who issued a statement warning that people may want to think twice before visiting Arizona and subjecting themselves to potential run-ins with the police. This because of Arizona's new immigration measure, already dubbed the Show Us Your Papers Act. A smaller number of protesters on hand today at the state capitol in Phoenix to show their outrage over Arizona's law, signed by Governor Jan Brewer on Friday. Sunday, though, thousands had turned out to protest the law that makes it a state crime to be an illegal immigrant, a law that will allow police to stop and question anyone they wish, merely on the suspicion that they might be in the state illegally. Opponents saying the law will lead to rampant racial profiling and turn Arizona into a virtual police state. Overnight, vandals having smeared refried beans in the shapes of swastikas onto the windows of the state capitol. The nation's largest Spanish-language newspaper, La Opinión, today calling, at least in the English translation, quote, for a boycott of all goods and services from Arizona and pledge to avoid tourism in the state as well. Some truckers responsible for hauling Mexican-grown produce to Los Angeles also agreeing to avoid Arizona to protest the new law. And as we mentioned, New York City Mayor Bloomberg using Arizona's new immigration law to encourage travelers to come to the Big Apple instead. Major League Baseball scheduled to play next year's All-Star game in Phoenix. Arizona's capital city also on the short list to host the 2012 Republican National Convention and/or its Democratic counterpart at the moment. Meanwhile, Arizona's senior senator, I was never a Maverick McCain, with a hat trick of fuzzy logic on this one, simultaneously questioning the constitutionality of his state's new immigration law while defending the governor's signature on it and seemingly supporting it, at least in theory.
I agree with the thrust of the bill. I have not read the details of it, and I agree with their frustration and anger over the fact that there has not been any significant and meaningful effort to secure our border.
Even ultra-right Republican Tom Tancredo saying that while he would welcome a similar law in a fellow Four Corners state, Colorado, he believes the Arizona law goes too far. Tancredo worrying that people would be, quote, pulled over because they look like they should be pulled over. Homeland Security Secretary Napolitano calling the new immigration law misguided. She vetoed similar bills when she was governor of Arizona.
The question for the Republicans is, do they dare try to take advantage of this in the short term in the 48 House districts that are occupied by Democrats that voted for John McCain in 2008, okay? Those are the vulnerable Democrats. A lot of them are in Appalachia, a lot of them are in the South and the upper Midwest, etc. Do they use this as a way to appeal to independents and Republicans who are already worried about the role of government, etc., etc.? Or do they really acknowledge what all of their strategists tell them, which is that long-term, it is a huge disaster for the Republican Party to be seen as anti-Latino. When Latinos are now 1 out of every 6 Americans, there are 45 million Latinos in America. The percentage of their vote is going up election by election, even in off-year elections. And beyond that, Keith, with all fair-minded Americans, which, you know, let's give us the benefit of doubt and say that's just about everybody. The idea that a person could be walking down the street and could be looked at with suspicion by authorities and have their papers demanded of them in the fashion of old medieval Europe is something that is so foreign to the Americans' understanding of themselves that that's the fire that the Republicans are really playing with here. Because it's a very short step for all those people who are of immigrant heritage, which is to say all Americans, to realize that the idea, let's see your papers, you aren't free to be an American or somebody with documents walking down the street, you aren't free to be that person alone without the reach of government. That's a very foreign thing. And ironically, Republicans who talk at great length about the overreach of government, about too much government, about intrusive government, the libertarian streak among conservative Republicans is the one that I think could be most offended by what happened in what used to be libertarian Arizona.